Welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of the Useless Thoughts Podcast. We missed last week, but we are back again with Episode 3. And this episode will be about things that we think, or problems that we think society needs solved. These are things out there that I believe that we get wrong far too often, and it's things that we need to fix together. I'm not calling everyone else out and leaving myself out of this. This is things that we all need to fix together. So I hope you'll join me on this episode. Sit back, relax, drop the small talk, and let's do this.
Sitting on top of the world, I don't know if you heard. I'm living it up, yeah, I ain't gonna stop, and I can't hear a word. Good vibes up in the air, and I got plenty to share. So come pick it up, there's tons to be got, and I'm spreading it everywhere. So go a little up and let it run amok. I'm telling your friends it's time to let the good times roll.
This is the Useless Thoughts Podcast, a place where no thought is too random and no topic is too pointless. Let's have some real conversation. Thanks again for joining me for another episode of Useless Thoughts. I apologize for missing last week. Got busy with some things and didn't have time to record the next episode, but I am giving these to you for free, so I'm not really going to apologize for not sticking to a certain schedule, since I can decide that on my own. But we are back for another episode. I did want to mention, I forgot to mention this last episode, maybe the one before that, we're on YouTube as well if you want to listen that way. It's essentially just a video where it's just the logo of the podcast the entire time, but it does have the full audio there. If you want to listen there, you just have to search Useless Thoughts Podcast, and you'll see the logo there and able to see the channel and all the episodes on YouTube. As I mentioned in the intro, today we're going to talk about some things in society that we all need to fix together. And one thing I have noticed in listening to my past episodes, I do plan, as amazing as that may seem, I do plan and script out how an episode will go. But because of that, I'm beginning to think that I'm sounding a little too polished and getting away from the Useless Thoughts idea, where it's kind of more designed for those 2 a.m. conversations that you have with your friends where you're just kind of rambling. And those are some of the most interesting conversations you can have. So I wanted to incorporate that a little bit more so that it has that vibe to it. So we're going to be talking about things that we can fix together. And before I get to that, let's talk about the sponsor for today's show. I want to go ahead and talk about the sponsor here at the beginning. This show is brought to you by Visors. And let me explain why this show is brought to you by Visors. There is a large portion of society that is suffering in silence, and that is those of us that have big heads. And if you think that I mean big head in terms of arrogant or cocky, that is incorrect. By big head, I mean the actual size of our cranium and skull is large. And so because of that, the hat companies have just decided that they are going to cater all of their hats to the people that have normal heads, and those of us that have large heads, we just have to deal with hats that sit way too high on our heads, and the gap between the bottom of the hat and the top of our ears is way too wide, and it just never fits right. And anytime we try a hat on in front of people and they look at us, it's embarrassing because the fitted hat doesn't fit us, or the ones that have the little latch in the back, we have to move it to the next to last pin or the last one. Or in the case of some people, the hat is so small that they have to just unbutton the latch altogether for the hat to fit their head. And so because of this, Visors come through in the clutch for those of us that have problems with hats fitting our head well, because the visor can be pulled down as low as we want to. Visors can be bought in different sizes to accommodate heads. And they're just all around able to where we can wear them and look like everyone else that's wearing a visor, as opposed to everyone that's wearing hats. We clearly stand out because the hat just sits perched way up on our head like a bird. Shout out to you, Visors. Thank you for sponsoring today's show. Thank you for being there for those of us that deal with large heads. The first problem in society that I want to talk about today, there's a grammar issue that I think we need to solve. Now, I am not the person that thinks that I need to be the grammar police. I think that that's annoying. There was nothing worse in school when you would ask the teacher, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And she would say, or he would say, "I don't know, can you?" And you just kind of wanted to say, "I think you knew exactly what I meant, and there's no reason for me to take the time to now correct it and say, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean can I go to the bathroom, I mean may I." That was just an unnecessary step to take. You knew exactly what I meant, and there was no reason to drag that out. So, and also that, there's times that you're taught in school the difference in the word to. You have TO, TOO, and TWO. Or the difference in there, the THERE, THEIR, and THEY apostrophe RE, or some of the differences between words like here and here that sound the same, but they spell different, HERE, HEAR, and just learning the differences in those. And sometimes that takes a while to figure out. And should we know the difference in those kind of things? Sure. But if we get them wrong, if we pronounce words wrong, don't use the correct past or present tense, or if we don't spell the right there or to or here or whatever it is, as long as we understand each other, it's not the biggest deal in the world to get these kind of things wrong. But there is an issue that I have noticed. It's something that we need to fix, and that is the difference in the word infer and the word implied. Okay, so now these words do not mean the same thing. Yet I have noticed that 98% of the world uses them incorrectly. So let's explain how to use infer and implied with a scenario. Let's say that Alice and John are a couple. And Alice says to John, "Man, this laundry is really stacking up." And so that's all that she said. So John gets home from work that day, and he starts pulling the baskets together, all the clothes, and starts doing the laundry. So Alice comes home to see John doing that. And she asks John, "What are you doing? Why are you doing the laundry?" To which John says, "Well, you implied that you wanted the laundry done when you said this laundry is really stacking up." You see, Alice implied to John that it needed to be done. She didn't come out and say explicitly, "Please do the laundry," but she did imply it. Now, let me tell you what Alice did not do to John. She did not infer to John that the laundry needed to be done. No, Alice implied it. Now, the person that inferred it was John. You see, that's how it works. Alice implied the laundry needed to be done. John inferred from Alice that the laundry needed to be done. I think this is a key difference, because I've started to hear people say in this example, they've started to say, "Well, Alice inferred to John that the laundry needed to be done." No, that's not how it works. These two words mean two different things. One is implying. That's the person that is giving the clue, and the person that is interpreting the clue is inferring. So I want us to all practice this on our own time. Let's work on this as a society. Let's make sure that we get this right, because we need to make sure that we can infer what someone means when they say the word infer, and that when they imply something, we know what they're saying. So infer and imply. Let's fix it, guys. Another problem that we need to work on together, and that is whenever we're playing a board game, really any kind of game, could be a card game, board game, any kind of game where you're gathered around a table playing with friends or family. Now, these are all well and good to play, and it's a good, clean fun to have on a night. It's a good excuse to get together with people, play a game together, kind of breaks the ice, get you know people you don't know that well. Games are great. But what inevitably happens is it's rare for you to play a game like that, and everyone that is playing has played the game before. There's always somebody there that has never played it, and that's fine. But see, the problem comes in of, well, now obviously that person needs to be explained how to play the game. The problem comes in is that no one listens. As soon as it happens, everyone is just chit-chatting around, and you waste the first 15 minutes. One person is trying to explain for a few seconds, and then everybody gets sidetracked. And then the person that's supposed to be listening is just joking around, not paying attention. And so then you start the game, and it's their turn, and they have no idea what they're doing, so it has to be re-explained. It's always mass chaos when the game has to be explained. And not even to mention, sometimes someone will start explaining, and then maybe they forget a little nuance here that's really not that important. It comes up rarely. But someone is like, oh, well, you forgot to bring this up, and then they interject their part, and then they left something out. So then someone else is like, well, you also have to remember this. And so then we have 5 different people explaining how to play the game, none of them doing an effective job. And so the person can't really piece all that together in a short amount of time because it was explained 5 different ways by 5 different people. It's ineffective. If we're playing a game, one person explain it, everybody be quiet, and let's just get it explained right. The first time, the quickest, and the most efficient. I think of, this also makes me think of wedding rehearsals. If you've ever been a part of a wedding rehearsal, you know that you come there that night, and I guess it could be in the day as well, and you're there to kind of practice how the ceremony will go. You're there to see who you're walking down the aisle with, if you're a bridesmaid or a groomsman. It just makes sure that you know who the people are, you know who you're walking down with, make sure you know what song you come in on, how long to wait until you go in between pairs of people. And it needs to be done, and it's a, fun time, sad ball. But here's the problem, is that everyone turns into a comedian at the wedding rehearsal. Everyone thinks that they're hilarious and that they can just joke around and not pay attention and just stand wherever they want and just flaunt around. And it turns into mass chaos. And the poor wedding planner is usually someone that sometimes it's a friend of the family. Most of the time they're really nice and they don't know the people that well, so they don't feel as comfortable being sharp with them and telling them what to do. So it dissolves into chaos. At a wedding rehearsal, just be quiet for 30 minutes, knock it out, and they could go a lot shorter and you could get to the rehearsal dinner, which is what everyone's excited about anyways. But that never happens. I'm just here to say, playing a game, wedding rehearsal, they go a lot faster and a lot more efficient if we would just all listen and be quiet in the beginning, and it would be such a smooth process. This may be asking a lot, I don't know. Just something I think we could all work on together. One other thing I think we all need to work on together, and that is how to get off of elevators, buses, airplanes, etc. So I'm here to explain it all. Let's talk about buses and airplanes, or a transit/bus type of thing. If you're on a bus, a transit, I was on one recently going somewhere, and typically they're going to have places to sit, and then they're also going to have places to stand for when the seats get full. You could stand up, hold on to a little handle somewhere, so that way they can fit as many people on as possible. Now here's where we need to make sure we get this right, okay? If you're on a bus or transit, you're sitting down and there's people standing as well. Everyone that is standing gets off first. First, this is just a courtesy to them for having to stand and not sit, but it also is the most efficient way to do it. Next, the people in the front go first. You don't have the people from the back cut off because they think that the appointment or the class or the event that they're going to is more important than the people sitting at the front. No, we go in order. People standing up, then the people in the front work their way out, and it continues on that way. That's the same way for an airplane. An airplane, if someone is still in front of you, has not gotten out, you allow them to get out first, and then you go. I didn't think that this had to be said, but it's become enough of a problem that it needs to be addressed. But finally, elevators is maybe something that we experience more so than we do being on a bus, transit, or airplane. An elevator, we're on one regularly. Now here's the thing. First of all, guys, those of us that try to be polite and hold doors open for ladies, that's honorable and well. But there's one time that we can give each other permission to be rude and not let ladies go first, and that is getting on an elevator. And the reason I say that is because the elevator doors open, there's a guy and a girl standing out there and they don't know each other, so the guy wants to be polite. Or maybe they do know each other. The guy wants to be polite, let the lady go on first, but the lady doesn't know that at the beginning, so she's standing there waiting on the guy, so they're both just kind of frozen. And the elevator has a specific timer of when it's going to start closing. So then the lady finally realizes, oh, the guy's being polite to me. So let me go on and get on. Well, now the doors are starting to close. Someone has to stick a foot out and hope the sensors catch it so that the doors can open back up. It's a jarring experience. Hopefully the lady doesn't get cut in half by the doors closing. So guys, there's a time and a place to be polite and hold doors open and let the ladies go through first. If they want to. If they don't, there's only so much you could do. But on an elevator, that is the one time, guys, where it's more polite for you to go first and hold the door open via, blocking the sensor so then the lady can get on. It's much more polite to get on first and keep the lady from being chopped in half by the elevator doors than it is to be polite and let them go first. But that being said, always, 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 the people on the elevator that are getting off at that floor, those come out before you get on. The people on the elevator will need to get out before you get on. I've seen this craziness of sometimes people want to get on the elevator before the people get off on that floor. So now you're getting in their way and they may have luggage or something like that and they got to cross around them to get out the door. That makes zero sense. Let them come out, and then you can get on. Them coming out blocks the sensor for long enough to where you then can block the sensor yourself as you go in. And here's a secret for you all. If you are getting on the first floor of a building and you press the button and the elevator doors open and there's people on there, there is a 99.7% chance that those people need to get off. If the door opens on the first floor and there are people on the elevator, they probably didn't just ride down to the first floor for kicks. They probably rode down there because that's where they need to get off at. First floor of the elevator, be aware if there's people on there, they probably need to get off. So there you have it. Those are some things as a society that I think that we can do better at. And I'm including myself in these. I'm not preaching at everyone. These are all things that we can solve together. And that's it. And that will do it for today's episode of Useless Thoughts. I thank you again for listening. As I said earlier, did not plan this episode out. Just tried to do more of the rambling. As I think that's more in line with how the show, how our thoughts are on a daily basis. I hope this has been interesting to you. If it hasn't, then I hope it's been useless. I hope maybe these are things that you've thought of before. Anyways, I hope you'll join us for the next episode where we're going to talk about our morning routines and things that we do in the mornings, things that happen to us, just some thoughts that I have about that. I want to end on a quote that I found interesting. I guess I typically try to find an inspirational quote, but I found that this one was pretty funny and applicable to today's episode. This is by Brian Regan. If you've never watched or listened to Brian Regan, pretty funny comedian. You probably need to watch him more so than listen, because I feel like half of his humor is watching his facial expressions as he tells the joke. Anyways, I not that I think he's some awesome comedian or anything, but he is, he can be funny. But he had a line that said, "Why are people getting on elevators shocked to find people getting off elevators?" I thought that was pretty funny. Just that, people seem to just completely disregard those people that are trying to get off in their effort to get on, like we were saying in our episode. I thank you again for listening. We have all kind of platforms that you can listen to the show. This is just a fun hobby for me. I like getting on here and rambling. Don't expect that this is something that you will be too inspired by, but I hope it's something that is kind of funny for you to listen to. Just know that we're not being too serious with what we talk about here. Just it's all lighthearted, it's all fun, and just trying to have something that you can listen to on your way to work, something like that, something that's not serious, that will just give you some help pass the time on those boring. I thank you again for listening. Remind you, as we always do, to be kind to everyone out there. I know it's election season. I will probably never talk about politics on this show, but it is election season, and we can get too polarized at this time of the year. But let's remember, treat others as we want to be treated. Treat others with compassion. Be kind to everyone that we meet. And let's try to make the world a better place.